welcome to episode number 169 of the LSR podcast. My name is Matt Brown, joined each and every week by the brightest minds in all of the gaming industry. With me, I have but one of those minds, but damn it, he is the brightest. It is Dustin Gowker. You can find him on the Twitter machine at Dustin Gowker. Smash the button. It's absolutely free. If you hate yourself, you can follow me at Matt Brown M2. We will talk FanDuel and their NBA data deal. We'll talk about some Pete Rose stuff that is kind of LOL funny, and we'll see what's going on. Of course, we know Election Day is next week, so is there any hope left over there in California? But we had some earning calls, Dustin, so let's kick things off with what Caesars had to say from a sports betting perspective. Of the casino side of things, the big news around here was they were going to sell off a property, and they had made it very well known that they were going to sell off a property on the Las Vegas Strip. And yesterday they said, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. So that made some news around here. What did they say about sports betting?
Wait, first off, I thought we were just talking about the Phillies for half an hour. We're not talking about the Phillies?
Listen, let me tell you this. So I have futures tickets on both teams in the World Series, so I can't lose.
Nice.
And I would win more money on the Astros, but I have more people who are rooting for the Phillies. And so, I almost weirdly am rooting against my own financial boon here. I almost want the Phillies to win just for you guys.
I appreciate it. We will not be talking Philadelphia Phillies odds. It's going to come up here in a second, though.
Yes.
Because it does intersect with the stuff we do. But, yeah, top level, Caesar's earnings call. We're into this is a Q3 earnings call season, so you're going to hear a lot of this from us and read a lot of content about this. Caesar's, though, came out and talked a lot about its digital business. Now, I've been doing this long enough. Sports betting, online casino used to be even just a few years ago, it was kind of like this thing on the side. People don't talk about it. Caesars goes into this, and it's not dominated, but a lot of the call was talking about the digital business and where that's going. Both sports betting and online casino. They turned a profit on their sports betting and online casino business for the first time in October. Again, that's not Q3, but it's the first part of Q4. But they, again, ahead of schedule on profitability. The question is whether that sticks there or not. But this is definitely interesting. Caesars is a large, as we all both know, large gaming company with footprint all over the place. But they're really, they're really still pumping that this is their path forward. They're not talking about that they even want to, ever spin it off. They think there's this synergy between sports betting on casino, which again, I think is very good for our prospects of more legalization in the future, because, when you see a large, traditionally land-based casino operator talk about this is a part of their business now, this is, we're past this stage where casinos should be worried about cannibalization. They should be looking at how does online casino help our bottom line business, and that's where Caesars is. And again, increasingly a part of what they see as their future, and driving a lot of that, and not just top line revenue, but also engaging with the brand and all of those sorts of things. So really interesting earnings call, and more to come on from the companies in the space that we cover.
And one of the things I think that really stood out, as you mentioned, with that October being profitable, Dustin, was not only ahead of schedule, but a full year ahead of schedule. I think whenever they had talked about, when they were looking and forecasting, they were looking towards the end of 2023 for all of that to happen. And so we're kind of a year ahead of schedule with that.
Yeah. They've told people we hope to be 2023. And this is what everybody's going to be talking about over the next several quarters and into next year is that path to profitability, because you can't just sit around running sports betting and online casino at a loss into perpetuity. So that they're already there. Again, it's not clear that they're going to be able to maintain that every quarter, but certainly a good start.
Right.
And then they're doing that. Now I'll do my own segue here, because now we're back into the Phillies, but the old Mattress Mack, the furniture magnate turned sports bettor who hedges furniture promotions against betting on sporting events. This is actually, they could be driven back into the negative realm if the Astros win the World Series, because Mattress Mack has a $3 million bet at Caesars that they win the series at 10-1. That's $30 million hit. So we're now talking about Mattress Mack actually, from cute little sideshow sometimes too. He has bets at lots of sports books, and most of those sports books would very much like the Astros not to win. Of course, the Astros behind 2-1 as we record this, playing again tonight against the Phillies. But this is wild to me that sports books, their bottom line is basically for a month or a quarter could be hedging on how Mattress Mack does and how the Astros do.
Yeah. Seriously, because we talk about, what a slim margin business sports betting is anyway, right? And so when someone were to, get a $30 million hit, I mean, that does in fact, if we were talking about the casino side of things, we'd be like, oh, well, that sucks, but it's certainly not going to be the end all be all or something. But from a sports betting perspective, I mean, that shifts and moves the meter.
Yeah, I mean, again, we have bets with MGM, several other, even smaller ones where it's probably, he has smaller bets with smaller books, but these are all needle movers for all of them. Like, you take the bet, you got the PR out of it, so this is some earned media and branding out of this that they get alongside of this. But and again, he's I guess he's actually into the realm. He's not betting, so he has an upside if the Astros win. But he's not gambling. He's hedging this against a furniture promotion, so he doesn't really lose money. But he's sitting on a potential $75 million windfall. I hate giving Mac, as you know, lots of airplay. Yeah. He is a good guy in Houston. He does good things for the neighborhood, for the community down there. But he's also just a master of PR. But because this was mentioned in the Caesars earnings call, I felt like we had to bring it up because this is crazy that this one result can change some of these companies' fortunes for a quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it's as we often talk about, at our sister sites and stuff with the lines and all that, big bets don't necessarily mean sharp bets or that these guys are good bettors. And then specifically in his case, these are all, as you mentioned, these are just hedges against promotions where he's going to come out ahead no matter what. So it's, as you mentioned, this is the greatest PR thing ever because everybody picks it up and everybody talks about it. And the guy just wins no matter what.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, again, I hate the content about it and that we've created this monster, but he's a genius from a PR marketing standpoint.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that.
It is. So obviously one more earnings call that we want to touch on here coming Friday on the DraftKings side of things.
Yeah, I mean, this is the big one that we always look for because this is one of the top two operators in the U.S. They report third quarter earnings on Friday. We have seen tons of trading and volume on earnings call days for DraftKings. Whenever people are basically betting on whether this is going to be a good or a bad earnings report for DraftKings, right as this comes on, and we're expecting again some high volume, especially coming out of Q3 and September numbers will be reported. This is the high water mark. That month really should be the biggest month for sports betting operators across the U.S. So DraftKings has actually been ticking up lately, trading about $16 USD right now. As we sit here, it's been as low as under 11. So this is, shareholders, I'm sure, hopeful this is the start of an upward climb. But remains to be seen is DraftKings going to be, what is their path? Again, this profitability will be the key to whether investors are saying, are you going to be profitable in the near future? And if not, you might see some more selling of DraftKings stock. But we'll just be looking for a story on Friday, I'm sure, at LSR. But this is kind of it's the largest pure play, online gambling operator in the U.S. Even FanDuel is, part of a larger company. So we look at DraftKings. This is kind of the bellwether for what's going on in the public sector for the sports betting industry.
As anyone knows who has to consume television the way that I do, because you have to watch sports live and you can't watch sports on delay. So therefore, I get every political ad that's ever happened, Dustin. It's like one of those things where it's like everybody that just watches sitcoms and stuff and they just watch things on DVR, they don't even get it. They don't even understand what is going on right now from a commercial aspect. When you watch as much sports as I do and you have to sit there through the commercial breaks, I get 9 political commercials every single commercial break. It is absolutely absurd. I will be so glad when next week is come and gone. But as we sit right now, we know the big thing, as we've talked about several different times, is California over there. Is there any hope whatsoever, or are we going to be looking further down the line at California?
I mean, there's nothing really new here. Adam and I talked about this quite a bit last week, but I felt like Election Day is Tuesday. I feel like we should touch. This is the the only thing that's on the ballot around sports betting, and we should talk about it. But yeah, it just still does not look good. There's nothing to lead anyone to believe that sports betting is going to pass either of the two propositions in California. The polling continues to be absolutely abysmal. And while I've cautioned on this podcast and elsewhere that polling on state level stuff is difficult, and especially on propositions, but it's so far behind on basically every poll we've seen, that only the one that people would care about more, the online sports betting proposition, is polling at like 26% in the latest poll from last week. That's just, it's hard to see where a poll would be that far off. Now, it's not impossible, and who knows what happens on election day, but I mean, it's off the board at this point. I wouldn't at DG Sportsbook for educational purposes only. I would not spread this game, spread this vote. It's that far off the radar. And again, I think Adam and I got into this again, but I feel like I don't know what the path forward is. It'll be, if this doesn't happen, and again, don't think it's going to, I just don't see when California is getting sports betting anytime in the near future. So, it's bad. It's bad news if you're a Californian and hoping to get this. But what the hope is, you come back with a fresh take, 2 years, try a different tack, get the tribes involved. But barring a huge upset on election day next week, we're looking at no sports betting in California. Certainly next year. I would highly doubt a legislative answer gets through in 2023, and then probably another ballot measure tries to take this up again in 2024.
Yeah, I saw our friends over at Eilers were debating in the latest newsletter whether it would happen before 2027. So that was kind of the debate in the newsletter amongst their writers. So if that tells you anything.
Yeah, I mean, they basically took this is what they thought was their best shot to do it now. And again, they've created so much animosity that I don't the tribes just don't. The tribes, again, are they have the physical casinos. That's all they really care about. They don't even really want sports betting. The status quo is what they were. Now, will can that change in the next couple of years? Sure. There's tribes that are involved in online gambling in other states, but they just don't see a great reason to let this happen. It kind of has to involve them if you're going to get this through, because they proved this year that they're willing to spend infinity money, borderline infinity money, to try to stop online sports betting from happening without their blessing and without them being the conduit through which it happens. So, yeah, I mean, 2027, I hate to say it, but that's kind of the over under now. I don't think 2020. Yeah. I think 2024 is such a long shot now that I'm not even sure it's worth put it on the ballot. I think you have to start over from scratch and just try to, come to some sort of get everybody on the same page and agree, which again, we always say this, but poker in California was such a mess. 10 years of it. We sat there and you and I watched this and hoped for California to legalize poker and start maybe a wave of legalization. Never happened. It's never going to happen at this point. Yeah. Don't even get started on other forms of online gambling outside of sports betting. That's you might get the online sports betting in the 5 to 10 year horizon, but anything else, poker, I think you can basically forget about in California anytime soon.
The silent fist pump from all of the sports books in Las Vegas as well, who are A-OK with nothing passing in California. That's for sure. I mean, so Dustin, really, as we move forward past Tuesday, I think all of our sites, as far as big state, we just shift to Texas, right? I mean, that's where we will be looking at LSR, and everybody will be looking at Texas. We've talked, it's been a while since we've talked about Texas, just because they don't meet this year. But, what we do know kind of going on behind the scenes is the power players within that state all seem to be aligned, and they all carry a massive amount of weight in that state and political influence. And so, unlike California and unlike Florida, I am almost to the point of where I think Texas is a favorite to get something done. When you have multiple billionaires who are all on the same page, stuff typically tends to get done.
Yeah, I mean, there's not been a whole lot of chatter real recently, at least publicly. I'd say coin flip-ish. I'd spread it -110. sure, on the side.
Yeah.
I think it's possible and maybe not 100% likely, but we're going to go into it. And it's such a short window. That's the thing with Texas, 3 months basically, and they're done. They either it gets done or doesn't. And then they don't meet for 2 years. So there will be a lot of eyeballs and a lot of lobbying going into Texas, because this is the big needle mover in sports betting. Like, there will be other states that probably legalize next year or look at legalizing, but nothing is that's anywhere near the size of Texas from that standpoint. We obviously have launches in Ohio and Massachusetts coming, Maryland earlier, potentially even this month, with some operators going live. But yeah, Texas will be the one. We'll be watching a court case in Florida as well, with that would allow for Hard Rock and the Seminoles to offer sports betting. That has a chance of turning things around for online sports betting in the short term as well. But yeah, we're going to be, I mean, we're basically, I'm sure there's just to be, all we're going to be doing is hammering the phones on Texas lawmakers and trying to figure out whether Texas is going to legalize it in the first few months of the year next year.
We already brought up Mattress Mack. Trust me, we'll be talking about him during all that. He is going to be lobbying very hard, and lots of Mark Cuban, Tillman Fertitta, and Jerry Jones talk, that is for sure, because all of those guys have already publicly backed this, and in some way, shape, or form, most likely are going to have a lot of influence in this one way or another. Let's talk FanDuel and NBA player data.
Yeah, interesting deal came out. FanDuel and Sportradar announced a deal in October, actually, that they're a deal for player tracking data to be provided to sports books. And again, we can. I suggest you go read the piece from John Holden. We're not going to get super into the legal repercussions here, but it's interesting. What do we think this is going to do for sportsbooks? And is this meet? Let's start from this point. And I'll turn it back to you. What is the appetite for this as a betting product? We saw Simple Bet launch with its partners, with its sportsbooks that it works with, launch pitch speed during the World Series, that you could bet on the pitch speed. What do you think people want to bet on, like player data and things that like around players, like how fast they're running and things like that? And what other potential uses are there, I guess, out of this?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is like, look, there's still learning curve involved for me just to get people to understand the live betting aspect just in general, right? I mean, and all of that. And I am very curious, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I'm very curious as to what any sort of appetite there would be for something like this. I mean, me personally, I'm as avid a bettor as there possibly is. And don't get me wrong, it won't happen in Nevada for who knows how long. We won't be getting it. But like, I'm not really jumping up and down about something like this. Like, and I'm always looking for different ways to kind of get action going on things. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, it doesn't hurt, I suppose. I mean, the more options, the better. And if there's anything like that, people are always going to probably bet on the long shot, which means you're going to win way more than you're going to lose. Like, nobody wants to bet on, a minus 110 guy who's going to be the fastest, have the fastest rushing speed, whatever. It's going to always be Tyreek Hill is going to be minus 200 every single week. And so someone's going to bet on the plus 800 guy, and that's never going to hit. So I guess there's that for the sports books that looks good, but yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't see myself getting involved.
Yeah, and that's only part of this, right? When you unpack player data, like a bookmaker can probably find information there that's useful. That's not for providing markets, but like, is a pitcher getting tired? Is somebody slowing down? Like that might just be the benefit of this, like being able to see that data in real time, and then can you then take that information and change your live markets and make all of that more optimized so that you're not taking a loss on a live bet. That it perhaps is interesting. The other part of it is how much is this stuff verifiable? Like, there's no independent verification. Basically you're just saying, is this good data? One, to bet on it. Two, to like book something on it. You're not being able to verify this because you're just going on what the player tracking says that the NBA is providing, again, via a deal with the Players Association, and then Sportradar reporting that to you. I don't know. We'll see. It's certainly interesting that, in these, it also underlines that, the CBA allows for this. I'm like, if I was the Players Association, I'd be like, maybe I should stop collectively bargaining this away and get some money out of it. Right. So.
Seriously. It'll be interesting. I mean, like I said, more options typically the better. I just don't know, what all we're going to be looking at with all of that. Typically everything we talk about here on the podcast, you can find over at legalsportsreport.com. We do go to our sister site for this one to take us home over at Play Ohio, because this is more of an LOL kind of thing right here, where we know that there's going to be legal sports betting in Ohio. You've heard of Bronson Arroyo, maybe Anthony Munoz, Icky Woods, of course, all of that. But the first legal sports bet, Dustin, is a little bit of irony.
Yeah, and is this a good idea, bad idea? I don't know, but it's a thing. But, the Hard Rock Casino in Cincinnati is having Pete Rose come on 12:01 on New Year's Eve and place the first bet. It may or may not be the quote unquote first bet anywhere, but in Ohio, but it will be the first one placed at this physical sports book. Obviously, with everything going with the entire history of Rose and baseball and gambling, obviously we know Pete Rose loves to make money from gambling, or at least to gamble and then find ways for that to happen. But it feels at this point like he's also just kind of, as much as Major League Baseball has taken in sports betting and it's part of its future and they've accepted it, like Pete Rose going off and betting, being a ceremonial first bet feels like kind of I don't know, if he wants to be in the Hall of Fame and he wants to be back in baseball, maybe he should just stay away from the gambling. But, at this point he's probably, made his bed and he decided, I'm just going to keep bleeding into this as much as I can and not worry about the chips. But, as the more baseball gets in bed with gambling, it's what Rose did was wrong, but it's also like the optics of it are like, you're still keeping Pete Rose out when you're,
right.
Again, we watched that. I watched that Harper home run in the NLCS a million times. Got DraftKings Sportsbook in the background when he's rounding the bases every time. You get live cut-ins from the old DraftKings too during the late innings of these games, and I don't know. I don't know where it's all going, but like Pete Rose, doing a first bet. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole if I were a sports book, and I would just stay away from him. But he's, this is his shtick now, and he's obviously the ties to the Reds and gambling, and there have been lots of headlines written about it, and there will be many more written about it in the next few months.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I think you can hold two thoughts in your head at the same time, where it's like, at this point where we've moved, it's ridiculous that they're keeping him out of the Hall of Fame, while also saying, yeah, but maybe you don't celebrate the fact that he was gambling when it was illegal and whatever. So it's like, I think we can hold two thoughts in our head at the same time. Like, should he be in the Hall of Fame? Now that we've moved away from this, absolutely one of the greatest baseball players of all time. At the same time, we can say, maybe we shouldn't just celebrate this guy as a gambler, because what he did definitely was wrong at the time whenever it was happening. So, I think we can do this, but I don't know, as a society, Dustin, we're not allowed to do that. You have to have a hard take, and that's the only take you can have,
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's somewhere in between. It's just weird and messy. And I'm more excited about seeing Icky Woods do the Icky Shuffle on New Year's Eve.
Exactly, in which he will. Yes, we know he will. He'll probably make the bet. He'll do it and then spike the ticket or something like that or whatever. Yeah, that's really what this is all about. Guys, everything we talk about over on legalsportsreport.com. So please go over there, take in all of the great words that our writers are doing over there, and follow us on the social medias as well. If you happen to be catching us on the YouTube, go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below. Really do appreciate the support as we grow this channel along the way. If you want to follow Dustin on the Twitter machine, at Dustin Gowker, it's absolutely free. Go and smash that button. Until next week, for Dustin, I'm Matt.